Okay, good turnout tonight. Thank you, everybody. Let's bring the meeting to order, and we'll start with the roll call. And if we can do, Casey, start.
Casey Sabina, member present.
Rick Emelheinz, member present.
Actor Cheryl, member present.
Guest.
Evan Anderson.
And Michael Chisholm, present.
Bill England, staff liaison present.
Elizabeth Shaw, alternate, present.
Logan Dunning, member present.
Shelley Oren, member present.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I think we've got a pretty tight agenda here tonight, so need to welcome our guest, Evan. We've had you here before. Welcome to return. I know you're going to give us an exciting report to let us sink our teeth into.
Hey, Mike, did we do roll call online too? Just real quick.
Roll call online.
Oh, I'm sorry.
His honor.
Go ahead. Is it-
Tiana, do you want to start for online roll call?
Yeah, hi. Tiana Duncan, present member.
Thank you, Tiana. And Mayor Sierra?
Hi there, everyone. Othaniel Sierra, Council Liaison and Present.
Okay, and we have a guest this evening.
Yeah, maybe that's me. My name is Noah Kaplan. I'm here representing Compost Colorado and excited to talk about composting.
Great. Thanks, Noah.
Mhm.
Okay, my apologies for forgetting the folks out there in Cyberland. Okay, thanks, Logan. We need to approve the minutes from April 9th. Has everybody had a chance to look at them? Any corrections, edits, problems? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve next week's minutes.
As motion approved. You get a second?
Second.
Second, Shelley. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Very good, thank you. Okay, upcoming tasks and events, standing committee projects, and I think, Logan, do you have something?
Yes, and we can figure out if we want to do this now or at the end, Mike. We had some scheduling conflicts around our subcommittee meeting. That said, I don't think it would take more than 5 to 10 minutes to have the discussion here. I picked up a copy of the Inglewood magazine on the way in. Admittedly, I've not had time to read through it in full, but there's some quality stuff in here. Certainly some stuff that we had recommended last quarter. So if we want, Michael, if it's okay with you, I think we just open up the conversation to see what recommendations or what topics are timely as we go into the next quarter magazine with the parameters of, we have about a half page worth of content to recommend. And I apologize, we were not able to make the subcommittee meeting work this evening. That would have been a more efficient route, but that said. Is that okay with you, Michael, if we just have a few minutes discussion?
Okay with the group? I think we're okay, go ahead.
Well, I'll open it up. Going into the summer and fall months and having looked at what was in the last quarterly magazine, does anyone want to pitch ideas or thoughts or what we might want to put out into the community going into the fall?
Logan, can you review for us what is in the quarterly currently?
I'm looking at it as we speak.
I've read it if you want me to.
Please,
just
Mel, that'd be
give-
great.
yeah.
Yes. Take
So
the
there was
spotlight
the
off of me.
composting do's and don'ts and highlighting compost drop-off in general. And then there was a highlight of the energy efficiency programs with a special highlight on the E3 program. One thing I'll note is I know that the City Nature Challenge, I think that's what it's called,
Yep.
has been something that folks really wanted to highlight. Talking with the communications team, there has to be some kind of like direct pull to the city. So I did look up on their website. In the city of Englewood, we can sign up and kind of be an official member for next year. So if you want me to do that, I can do that. And we can make it like a full actual city connection. But that's the only tough spot that they were in, of just promoting something that didn't have an actual tie. So those were the two that were in the half page.
I was really happy to see the composting content in here. I thought that was extremely timely, so thank you all for your contributions last quarter. I do love the grass overgrowth and weeds do don't. So the half page section, that's sharp, and that's sort of what I envision coming from this commission is just high and tight, do's, don'ts,
Yeah.
information, public, and education for the general public about all things sustainability. So we covered composting, as Mel said, weeds 101, overgrowth 101, which y'all discussed at code enforcement, I believe, or are in the process of, right? And then what else? What was the third one, Mel?
So it's on this, it's right underneath that composting one.
Yeah.
It's the E3 program, and then that QR code takes them to that general residential energy efficiency program. So
Here.
they can learn about
Yes.
all of them, not just the E3.
So we could be proactive with public education. We could highlight ongoing successful efforts. You have a thought, Tracy?
So this is going into fall?
Yes.
This will be the fall issue?
Yes.
I think, not July, sorry, what's July?
It's the lead up. So it'll be the late summer fall edition.
Sorry to interrupt you. Oh, no, that's all right. So when does this, so it'll come out?
I could pull the timeline up real quick, but this, Mel, you might have it in front of you.
I do not.
Okay.
I think it's fall time.
That's,
If this came out now, it's gonna come out in a couple months from now.
but it'll be the
So it would-
fall edition.
Yeah, it would be
Right.
probably, I'm assuming,
Late summer. fall.
late summer,
Third
early
quarter.
fall.
Okay.
August.
Is this maybe a time to talk about water conservation? Overwatering, underwatering.
Yeah. I just need to find the drop date for the calendar. If it's October.
Right.
Is that too late?
Would something like leaf recycling or anything like that, would that already be covered in the magazine elsewhere, or?
So we do have a leaf recycling that happens each year, the first week in November. So if it did fall within that timeline, we would have that in there.
Just a reminder.
This magazine dropped in May, so the next one should be 3 months hence, right?
So August.
August. That's why I was wondering about water.
Mel, do you have any idea what you're gonna put in your next email newsletter to avoid? Either we could saturate the information by doubling down or avoid repetition if it's not necessary,
Yeah, since this quarterly newsletter is going out tomorrow, I haven't even thought about the next one yet. I'm just wrapping up this one.
That's fair.
But I can have something ready for you all next meeting if that's helpful. I just don't have anything on the top of my head now.
When is the deadline for this content?
For the sustainability quarterly newsletter?
Well, the magazine. Is it?
Yeah, so I
wanna
think
say
you
the
all are
deadline
being
was
preemptive.
Late June to go to comms through August, and then it would get pushed out for third quarter. So that's why we needed to talk about it tonight. So we avoid the situation last time we had to call session.
What about doing something around, and I know this, we talk about this a lot, but like Colorado native plants, because there's such a push that if we are going to get that onto the ballot, we want people educated,
Yeah.
know what we're doing,
Yeah,
why we're doing it. So
that's a good idea.
maybe some image,
Continuation of
like education around why, like, and how it benefits.
the parks bond that's going up and just continuing that effort and getting the vote out.
Yeah, because I was wondering if we're allowed to do that. I mean, I'm
I don't
sure.
know.
Don't quote me, but I don't think we are. I don't know.
That sounds right.
But we
Yeah,
could go in
because
a roundabout way and talk about Colorado native plants.
It could be like general knowledge and then be like, if you're interested, look at the Depot Park or look at, what's the new one? And Logan it- Bates. you-
One thing
Right.
I'll flag too is the communications team, because not this last magazine, but the one before that, there was that whole huge spread of like lawn removal, native plants and everything. They're trying to get like just new information out to residents. That's also why they focused on that composting and the renewable the residential energy efficiency.
What about pollinators?
putting something in about, how to leave your plants so they don't get trimmed back, so that the pollinators can continue to, and the animals, that kind of thing.
Would be a good
I
time.
like that, or like, I really like that, and then
Yeah.
depending on the time of year, I mean, there's other things that maybe we point out, like digging up dahlias, right? How to like manage those tubers, and how do we store those?
I like that.
And then like hydrangeas have to get cut back that time of year to like manage it for spring. Maybe it's something around like just.
Yeah.
Preparing your garden for the
Just
fall.
weed.
It's just winterizing.
You don't have to pick up.
Putting your garden to bed.
Oh, I like get honey with that if you wanted.
Putting your beds to bed.
Putting that in the notes. Putting your garden to bed.
But there's some information there that
Yeah.
people might appreciate.
I like the idea of winterizing your gardens.
Yeah.
Or just going into the winter months, if there's,
Things
if
you
there are
don't have,
resources.
do's and don'ts with that,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot, yeah.
If there are, winter energy efficiency audits, if there are grant programs or programs that we've worked with in the past or highlighted at this commission, maybe we highlight those again. If there are services available or funds available.
Yeah.
But we have to be careful, Logan, because the message that you'd be putting out might conflict with current practice that the city's doing in terms of flower gardens. I mean, that's what we got into last fall, which was sort of that sterile cleaning of flower beds.
That's where I was going.
We would be saying, put your beds to bed, winterize them. It's okay to leave mulch. It's okay to have some clutter. Maybe it's a good thing. I mean,
That's what we want.
but it's sustainable practices definitely have guidelines on how to winterize your garden. So anyway, interesting topic.
So.
Yeah, and then like planting bulbs, sorry. In that same context, there is a list of things also that you can talk about with like planting bulbs and things like that. That's just not winterizing, but prepping.
Right. Just timely gardening in general.
So could we take this information that we got from everybody and then just have a little separate thing that we could come back and say, this is what we want to put in the issue? Just so we can move on to.
Yeah.
Sorry, can I throw one more thing out
You
there?
can throw
As
you need.
and this might not, but another thing to maybe consider is that especially the push for Colorado native plants, I have found, even with asking like the AI guys, it can be difficult to be like, all right, I've got something on the north side of the house, like what's a good plant to put here? What's gonna do this thing? And I feel like it may be just kind of a quick little like chart or what have you that's like, hey, on the north side, this works good, or this south, whatever. So that's just an option, throwing it out there. It's hard information for me to find and I go looking for it, so I can't imagine like, oh, whatever, full sun, psh, partial sun for you, it'll work.
Good visuals too.
Do those resources exist somewhere?
Not that I found, and I'm not, this is not a humble brag. I did just get a certification from CSU for gardening, and even in that, I was not able to find like just a quick and dirty chart. I don't want extensive, but like north side of the house, okay, I need something that needs shade. I need something that's maybe not gonna get a lot of water, whatever, but just like kind of a general idea, or even put in the plant family kind of a thing. So it wasn't, I mean, I could go through a list of like the opposite way. Tomatoes, do this, corn, this plant, evergreen.
Congratulations on your certification. That is, that's.
No, it
you
wasn't
should
a humble
brag about
brag.
that.
I was just
You
trying to
should brag about
justify
that.
my
That's awesome.
confusion.
You're further credentialing our commission. It's fantastic. How about we do that, Tracy? How about I recap to Mel our 2 or 3, tier 1, 1A, 1B recommendations, and I can put that in an email to Mel, and then we can recommend that out to communications, or do we need to vote on something tonight? What's the process?
Because you all are the subcommittee, you all can meet unless you all feel comfortable with it moving forward with recommendations as the subcommittee.
I, for one, trust our communication.
That's a lot of
The-
trust
The
right
extensive plans of this commission.
Thanks for that.
Thank you.
I appreciate the vote of confidence. Yes, I can recap our recommendations to the city's communications team to Mel. I don't think I can CC the whole subcommittee.
No,
Just you
it can
then.
only be you and one other member, but it can't be all of them.
All right, I'll maybe CC.
Which doesn't it make
one of them
planning
to
so
make
much
sure I
harder?
recap everything. It's,
That's
I'll keep my thoughts right on that. I will recap this to Mel, and we can write it down.
Okay,
And I mean, hat tip to the communications team. They're award winning. They
Yeah.
had a big
I saw
accolade this
that.
last year. That's a big deal.
Something we did on SEAC, which I think was helpful and we're gonna
Yeah.
be moving forward, is we kind of laid out the whole year.
Yeah.
Okay, we provided the Communications Commission with a variety of topics.
Yeah.
So that anywhere they're going, whether it's Facebook or whether it's someplace else, they have kind of a direction for the SEAC about what we would like to see them promoting during this quarter. It might not be a bad idea to kind of get something larger so you're not always like, what are we doing the next quarter kind of thing.
Right.
Just a thought.
How did that land? They appreciate that?
Just a bank
Yeah.
of.
Yeah, and that way they put a full program together for us with SEAC.
Nice. Fair recommendation.
okay,
Good,
we good?
good.
Thank you, folks.
Thanks, sorry, that was a little organized.
All right, well, let's ask Evan to bring us up to speed with what's going on with the tree ordinance. What do you know and what don't you know?
All right, thank you. And Mel, will you pop the draft testing up here?
Yes.
And while Mel's doing that, I want to bring up something maybe goes into what y'all were just talking about, some sustainable practices. A thing we've started doing in the Parks Department is creating habitat trees. There's a few of them people might have seen. There's one there's one at Bellevue. There's one at Cushing.
Yep.
There's one at Southwest Greenbelt, number 3, which is the one farthest east. And then there's 3 in the Broadway 285 green space interchange, whatever you want to call it. So some of those dead trees you're seeing out there are on purpose. So providing wildlife habitat. Just one thing an urban forest doesn't have is dead trees, because people remove them. So we're trying to create space, and it's kind of cool. This spring, we've already had 2 that are occupied by birds.
Cool.
In that short period of time. So
Well, I would even think.
we do some sustainable stuff in the Parks Department.
No, you're getting better all the time. I saw one of those trees over at Cushing and
they're
I was
signed.
impressed, yeah. And so even pollinators, insects, et cetera, can use that tree as well, can't they?
So that's the only tree that's still alive. That willow tree is like partially
Okay.
alive. And we're keeping it alive. We're not killing it. The other ones are all pines and spruce and we kill them.
No, that's
by
And
bark.
will you just give those a trim job when decay sets in and the tree starts to break down, or
We'll
at
do,
some point just whack the whole thing down?
No, we're gonna let them fall apart.
Yeah.
So we've made them safe. They're basically just like
Yeah.
holes. They have little branches sticking off here and there for perches and whatnot. But yeah, like the willow tree at Cushing, we're gonna pollard it, which is every few years come in and cut all the sprouts out.
That's cool.
And eventually it'll be something.
Very good.
If
Thank
you
you.
do notice those out in the park, those trees are there on purpose.
There's a reason, huh?
Yeah, not just leaving dead trees everywhere. Okay, so I met with Parks and Rec Commission last week, which also serves as the tree board, the city of Inglewood, and presented this document. It was the first time that anybody there had seen it. And we have discussed it before, and this document was created from our discussions in the past. When I say our, it's myself and this group right here. So the Parks and Rec Commission, the tree board, is currently commenting on it, and I'm receiving comments from them. So there's some things in this that are changing as we speak. So if you haven't had a chance to read over this document, it's only 7 pages, it's not too much, but it goes over a lot of what we talked about and what this group wanted to see in a tree protection ordinance for Inglewood. So we can go a few different ways. I can do a brief overview, some high points, or y'all can just start throwing stuff at me about what you would like to change, what you would like to see less of, see more of. And then I'll use these comments and the tree board's comments and create a new document that will go back to the city's tree board.
As a group, you want to have Evan do an overview first?
Yes, let's do it over here.
Do the overview?
Yep.
Go for the overview.
Great.
Please. The purpose of these documents are to protect trees during construction and development. That's what we talked about initially. We're protecting these trees to preserve and enhance the entire urban forest of Inglewood. So we're going to protect and create an urban forest through small acts on small pieces of property. And over time, we'll be preserving these large trees, preserving these medium-sized trees to one day become the future mature canopy of Inglewood. Instead of constantly starting over, grow a tree for 15 years, remove it, grow another one 15 years, remove it, grow another one 15 years, remove it, which happens in most cities as land gets reused and redeveloped over time. Where this ordinance would apply, we had talked about it only applying on commercial and multifamily. We had a discussion with the tree board about what is multifamily. And so we're using the verbiage from the city's code. And there was still some discussion about what exactly, basically, there's single family homes and there's not single family homes. And anything that's not a single family home is multifamily. So I've used the term multifamily. I don't think that's the term that City of Inglewood uses. I'm not 100% sure. So let's say somebody wanted to redevelop a property from one house into two, like a duplex or a quadplex. That would be considered what Parks and Rec was saying. That would be considered multifamily. Now we're debating about whether it's 4 units is now multifamily or if it's 2 or what. So that's still.
Where do ADUs fall in that?
So that was another one. So ADU wouldn't apply.
Would not apply.
Would not apply.
Because it's considered single
it's
family.
still one owner. So if it's subdivided, then it becomes multi, right? So just like you do the side-by-side duplexes, it's actually subdivided in just 2 separate owners. And obviously there's more discussion that needs to be had about these definitions of these terms. Multifamily is a placeholder for now. So that's open for discussion. ADU was a big concern. And it's up to the tree board and this group to decide what properties this ordinance would be applied on. It wouldn't be up to me. So whatever y'all say, whatever tree board says, that's what we're gonna go with. And then we're looking at commercial property as well. So we're not looking at single family homes. Somebody wants to add a deck or a garage to their backyard and ADU. That's not exactly what we're looking at currently. There's some definitions. There's been some comments about trees. What is a tree? The definition of a tree, all of these can change. Multi-stem trees was one. And then basically, now if you want to just scroll through, there's a planning and design part. This is the part where we take a piece of property before the project starts, and there's a process that we go through with the developer of the property, the steps that need to be done about inventorying the trees. And all this is pretty standard. Inventorying what's out there, deciding what should be kept, and then what is going to be kept. And that's basically what this whole planning and design phase would look like. Figuring out where all the buildings go, what trees can possibly be kept, what trees should be kept. Because trees are a great asset, It can also be an extreme liability if they're not healthy, or they have large defects in them. And then there's a tree protection plan as part of that. That would be part of these projects if they do have trees on the site. That would involve tree protection zones, critical root zones, site maps, inventory data. This is all pretty standard tree protection stuff. And then we'll go down to the tree protection specifications. And that's just the details about how the trees are going to be protected. I know that we talked about providing guidelines and BMPs, and it would basically be a summary of this, how you protect a tree. What is the proper way to protect a tree? I always.
Sorry, Evan, do you want me to go further than this?
No, you're fine right here. When protecting a tree, if you don't start protecting it properly, there's no point in continuing because you've already killed it. If you cut the roots right next to it and you do something and then you keep the big fence around it, it doesn't matter anymore because you've already killed it. So using these guidelines, being consistent about how they're applied on the sites so that we're putting our effort in the right places. That's what these guidelines, that's what we talked about before. Providing information that can also be made available to people that want to protect the trees in their front yard while they're doing construction on a single family home as well. It would be using these same guidelines.
So this service would be available to single family home people as they're redeveloping, or how does that work?
We would, basically what we had talked about before, providing best management practices or guidelines for just that are out there, sort of an outreach. If you do want to protect the tree in your yard, this is how you do it. You might not want to follow the guy in the bulldozers. He might not have the tree in his best interest. Right. This is how it should be done. And these are all very standard. We're not doing anything. We're not creating anything new or coming up with any new crazy ideas. This is all pretty standard. And then, Mel, we'll go down to 5. Or did I skip 4? Yeah, 4 is all the specs. And then part 5 is the tree removal aspect of it. This is another thing that we had talked about, was about what happens when a tree is removed from a property. So looking at what size of trees we want to start protecting, and then what kind of mitigation we want for a removed tree. We had talked about using basal area. Parks and Rec Commission wanted to go towards a diameter replacement, which is totally fine. That's more standard. So you cut down a 10-inch tree, you can plant 10 inches of diameter to replace it, or pay into what we are calling the Inglewood Tree Fund, which would be a per inch cost that would go into a fund that is then used to preserve and plant more trees on private property. So whether that's in that same neighborhood or adjacent neighborhoods in the city where that canopy was lost, replacing canopy. If we can't do it on that property, do it at an adjacent property. So it could be providing trees, could be helping people with protection, could be anything. And that's kind of the document we have now.
How will you determine for a private property? How would somebody go about for that last step when you're saying that a fund for putting trees, but you said private property as well, yeah.
So the money from the fund would, since the Parks and Rec Commission asked about that, it's like, oh, we provided the parks to plant trees. Well, Parks Department doesn't need money to plant trees. The money would go towards putting trees back in the neighborhood itself. So let's say this property is developed, they lost a big ash tree in the front yard. Maybe we go to the neighbor 2 houses down that doesn't have a tree in the front yard. Hey, would you like a free tree?
Okay, so that's probably going to be the setup there, is where you deem it kind of an offering, not something where somebody would apply to go get it.
No, so they would basically just pay into the fund, the person that removed the tree, whatever it is, $200 an inch, $500 an inch, whatever the decided amount is. And then we would take that money, pool it for other projects and use it to put other trees in the ground. on private property.
So the money is coming from multi-unit properties or business properties, but going to support private properties. Is that correct?
Yes.
Interesting.
So it wouldn't like, we wouldn't give money to like another development to put trees on the property. Yeah.
Obviously, it'll vary, but do you foresee one option or the other being much more obvious choice, such like would replacing a tree be $1,000 more than putting that money into the tree fund? Or do you think it would be similar?
We would use like current market values for trees where there wouldn't be one that's like an obvious thing, because there are loopholes we want to close.
Right.
The loophole of, oh, I'll just plant 10 trees on this fence line, and then 2 years later, we'll cut them all down. Got it. Kind of a thing. That we don't want to create these loopholes. So we don't want the cost to be so prohibitive that people don't want to pay into it.
Sure.
And also a lot of properties, there isn't a lot of space for trees anymore. When somebody's redeveloping a property, there's not a lot of space. There's not a lot of green space anymore. So we don't want the cost to be crazy where we're really trying to hurt people. What we're trying to do is recoup the lost benefit we got from those trees citywide. Because these trees don't affect just that property, they affect the entire block. Right.
So how is it
So-
gonna be monitored?
It would be, you mean like through the developments,
Yeah,
through permitting?
okay,
Yeah,
so
so
that
there's-
would be
there's a
part of the
whole-
permit process.
There's a whole future if this is going to move forward
Yeah,
beyond talking with the different commissions. There would be code permitting, there'd be a lot of involved parties.
so why can't it go towards single family?
It can. We're not saying it can't, but this group and Parks and Recreation did not think that was a good idea.
What was again, back to the rationale for not including single family in this?
People didn't want to.
What's that?
This commission and Parks and Rec Commission didn't want to. So like I said,
Did we make that as part of our statement, that we didn't want single family? Michael?
I'll also say that when this was brought to city council, and Mike and Evan,
Also-
please correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like a good amount of them voiced that they would not want this impacting single family, of like
Good
the
concern.
choice of what to do on your own property.
Yeah, there was a line drawn in the
Yeah.
soil.
So like this isn't, this is a work in process.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I say we, like all of us, need to create something that there's gonna be compromises. In order for, you don't wanna be, like, I'm from Austin, Texas, and it's one of these strictest tree ordinances definitely in the
They
south.
have amazing trees.
But it's so strict that the governor passed a law a few years ago that it's illegal for cities to do stuff like that. So, and Florida also did the same thing. So you can be strict and you can do all the right things, but you can make enemies that ultimately now Austin lost control by trying to control. So there's a balance with anything like this that we want to do good, we want to do it right, but we want to target the right places.
I suppose what I'm thinking about in terms of single family is when a home is knocked down.
Mhm.
They should have to go through the proper steps of removing trees. If they're gonna knock down a home, like,
Completely wipe it off.
right,
That's great.
trees should be a part of that.
Yep.
Like,
And 100%.
why?
So you're just talking, maybe like a new build would be the
Yes.
term to
Yeah.
use, like a single or a
Let's
multi.
just wipe out the entire lot, let's take down everything.
Just bulldoze it.
It's
Right.
like,
Right.
why that, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
that,
And I'll add to that. Talk about loopholes. Let's say I'm planning on selling my property to a developer, and they're gonna put a triplex in or a duplex in. And the developer says, hey, do me a favor, cut those trees down before we do the deal. Could you have like a 12-month lead time or something that, if you whack down a tree prior to selling to a developer, there's a penalty.
That's gonna be very hard to monitor and,
Yeah.
Plus,
Well, you can
they
see
don't
the
allow-
stump.
so I know like
Yeah.
from consulting in Austin.
Yeah.
I know lots of developers that just straight up cut trees down. They're like, we are gonna ask for forgiveness instead of go through the process. Cause we're building this home and we bought that for $1 million and we're gonna redo everything. And so
find me.
I'll pay $1,200.
Yeah.
That's nothing.
Okay.
So we want people to be on board.
Yeah.
I think is the best option.
And I
You don't want
understand,
people
I totally
looking for
understand
loopholes.
this, yeah. It's the same thing with native plants, it's like you don't wanna enforce things, you want to educate people about why this is important and why this is something we need to do.
There's a lot of, I know home builders that would,
But
they would
given
poison
that logic,
trees.
Kevin, if
so
the
they would
developer says, we're gonna whack the tree down one way or the other. So there again, the developer says, okay, I'm buying this property. They cut 2 beautiful trees 6 weeks before we bought the property. Can you're the arbiter. Could you say, well, that's fine, there's a penalty. You know, that property had trees cut down. And so, yeah, there's $1,200 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Price of doing business. Either way, I mean,
It's not, yeah,
I mean, I don't
it's
want
totally valid, but I think then we're talking about having somebody to enforce trees.
Right.
And that's not my position.
Sure. Okay.
Like, I don't have the power to do that. That would be a code and permitting thing, an inspector thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other parties that would have to think that's a great idea.
Well, seriously, like I mean, it just should be part of the permitting process. It's.
So, yeah, but
That's
like
what
I said,
I was gonna say, because you have like this whole element of, is the tree sick already? You know, somebody just
Right,
trying to like
right.
take care of something that like this tree's, you know, it's this old, it's gonna fall over,
Yeah.
whatever, the damage is done from some other time, and you don't wanna be like pinged for that, but then if you go into like, hey, I'm gonna go permit, but it would have, the process would have to move really quickly. You know, and you decide to like pull a tree out of your yard, you're like, all right, I'm gonna go done in 3 days, 5 days, whatever. It's not.
and that's where.
I must admit, I did that last year on my neighbor's property. She was like, my tree is dying. And so I just called up my friend that's a tree guy and came down and.
Yeah, we just did
Yeah.
it recently too, so yeah, so I think it's just saying that if you have a round of permitting process, the permitting process has to move very quickly.
Yeah, and that's,
And that becomes.
it's about there's a little bit of outreach and cooperation with people that are doing things. You want people to be on board. You want the cost, when somebody's redeveloping, you want the cost to be substantial, that you can do something with it, but not prohibitive, that they don't. If they're gonna cut the tree down, they're gonna find a way to get rid of it.
Sure.
Right? And so what we wanna do is, okay, we don't have to agree with that, but we can get $500 from them.
Yeah.
Which is a drop in the hat for these large projects. And then that's 2 trees that we can plant somewhere else.
Yeah. No,
So
it's a balancing act. I get it.
there's a
You could-
balancing act that needs to be made. But I worry that if it's worded so strictly,
Yeah.
when this goes to people who make the decision, it's gone.
You could also, sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, I'm still having a problem with the ADUs. The situation right now has changed dramatically in the last 2 weeks. The state has now come down on the fact that ADUs are encouraged, and they're actually funding and helping people to want to be able to put in ADUs, which is all wonderful. I'm not against that. But the unintended consequence of that can be that in order to put an ADU in, you're going to radically change your yard. And in doing that, you're going to possibly sacrifice or take out healthy trees. And question I have is what percentage of this city, this tree cover in this city, is within the residential districts? Because if in fact it is a high percentage, then what you're talking about, Evan, is not going to, could not truly have the effect that we want to have, which is actually protecting and maintaining the residential trees in Englewood. And ADUs are something which will have an impact on that. And we need to look at what the ultimate effect would be, that somebody wants to build an ADU in their backyard, or even convert an existing garage into an ADU or something, they're going to want to change the landscape to do that kind of thing, and that can affect the tree cover in that area. So it's a concern personally I have. I'm not trying to say that this commission has to take a stand on that, but I want to be on the record as saying that this is a concern.
Sure. 100%.
Wouldn't that fall under a new development though? Like new development, including additional ADUs, including?
Say it again, I'm sorry.
Wouldn't that fall under, sorry, am I speaking quiet? I didn't wear my hearing aid, so I don't know how loud I am. Wouldn't that fall under new development, something like that? So if we're talking, oh, right, so a single family dwelling, like a single family house, if you're going to bulldoze it down, now it's called a new development, new build, something along those lines. And now we've got tree protection going in there. So the same thing with an ADU being added to a property, it would fall under the lines of, hey, this is a new development. So now we've got a tree ordinance.
That would be,
now we've
it's
got that.
reflected, you take a look at it in the same lens that you take a look at full redevelopment. But it sounds to me like there's pushback on that. We've had pushback in this city about ADU rules being too restrictive, and that they have limited the number of ADUs that have come on board, and the state's taken a stand now that they want more of this. So it sounds like it's pushing back the other direction, and I'm concerned about canopy associated with that.
I think it's a great concern. I will say that the tree board did not want this to be applied with ADU. So I'll just throw that out there.
I just have one more comment, and this is not, I mean, I don't know. This is just an idea and I don't know the path forward. But as far as what you're talking about pulling out trees and, you know, to your point, if somebody could do this or something like that, another method, another path to look down may be just incentivizing or working with the tree cutter downers, you know, because they've obviously, if they've got a horse in the race and and I don't know what that would look like, but it might be an avenue to go
I
down.
would say most of the time with development, they don't use tree companies. They use bulldozers and backhoes. So like if you're scraping a home, you're not going to hire an arborist and pay them $9,000 to cut a big tree, push it over with a backhoe and dig it out of the ground.
Haul it up.
That's why it should be.
So that's why they're.
Permitting process at the very
Yeah,
beginning.
so it would definitely, it's through permitting. That's why in those process, before anything starts, there's an inventory. Just like when you survey a property, the tree inventory is part of that process. So we know what trees are out there from day zero, not after the fact. As soon as they're applying for permits, they have to bring in a tree inventory. And then, you know, so we know what trees are out there. Then there's a site visit where, you know, I would go out there or whoever the designated person is and says, okay, this is correct. And these trees are here, or no, you missed one back there. And then, you know, there's a process of, all right, I agree or disagree that this tree is hazardous, or I agree or disagree that this tree should be kept, that this tree is an invasive species and we don't want to keep it. So there's a lot of considerations when we get on site where it's not just like anything that's alive, anything that exists is under the jurisdiction of the city now. We work with people, and when we have the good trees, you have to think of a tree needs to be able to provide future value. And if it can't provide future value, if it's going to become a liability, we don't want to spend this time and effort and sweat into saving liabilities. We want to save assets and things that can provide future value. The tree still needs to be able to. But if that future is only 1 year, should we spend this time and effort?
Like the tree's life.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense.
We want to save trees that are going to be there 20 years from now.
Yes.
That are going to be there 50 years from now.
Okay.
100%.
We don't want to save trees just for the fact that we're going to save it. And the person that buys that house is going to have to remove a dead tree in 3 years.
Yeah.
Good.
In that,
That's not what we want.
that's fair.
Or we're saving a tree of heaven and it's shooting stuff everywhere and we're spreading invasive species through the neighborhood. You know, we're not trying to saddle people with liabilities and problems. We're trying to find the good trees, the keepers, and keep them in our urban forest.
I guess my angst comes from 4 doors down from me that had 4 beautiful trees and a nice home, and it, all gone.
Yeah, which it's
Yeah.
obviously,
And now there's a grandiose house there that does not fit in Inglewood, so, anyway, there we go, I said my piece.
I think it's a valid and common concern. And like I said,
I
this
appreciate
isn't,
what you're doing.
it's not Evan's tree ordinance.
Oh, come on,
No,
Evan.
because if it was mine, I would be very strict, you know what I mean? Because that's what I do. We would be saving lots of money. But it needs to work with a lot of different parties. There's gonna have to be some compromise for something like this to be realistic. In the first place, be realistic. And in the second place, be something that is palatable by not just council, but the population in general.
This is what I said the one time, working in local government is taking off your activist hat and putting on your compromise.
I don't know.
It's really hard.
This is probably why I don't do it.
Well, and remember, Englewood does not have anything right now, so
There are some
something's better than
There are
nothing.
some landscape
That is true.
specs. There are some specs about trees being added and numbers of trees in city code, but what we're talking about is something very different.
Yeah.
Something that can be portrayed and taken in a very negative light as overreach. But
So
I
let's
think we
spin
should
it more.
take a different angle. The angle is preservation
Yeah.
of our urban forests. So Mel, do you have copies of that tree canopy assessment?
Somewhere in my
There's
email,
one
yes.
stacked away somewhere. So I did a tree assessment 2 years ago. We got tree canopy. I'd have to look it up, but I think Inglewood in total was 13 or 14% tree canopy coverage. The data was from 2018, so it's a little old, and we're missing some parts of it. We're going to be doing a new one in the future when the funding is available. And then we'll really see. So I have that map broken down in by neighborhood. Then there's a straight map that shows every single tree canopy in the city. And you already know where there's no trees. The industrial areas, northwest Inglewood, like it's very obvious, the Santa Fe corridor. There's huge swaths of Inglewood with almost 0% canopy coverage. And you're outside of northwest Inglewood in the neighborhood, which is low and needs to be higher. These industrial areas, Santa Fe corridor, downtown, we just never have canopy. It's just not feasible. And you can see driving down South Broadway, look at the health of those trees. The trees do not want to live in concrete. So it's very challenging. So to make up for that, we need to be higher in other areas. And it follows the very standard guidelines of wealthy neighborhood, high tree canopy. Lower income neighborhood, lower tree canopy. And that's nationwide. So we're not the only ones dealing with that. So it's very obvious when you look at that map. You see the dark green, you know the neighborhoods I'm talking about. You see the light green and the white, you already know the neighborhoods I'm talking about. So we know where the problems are. Having something like that, a tree fund could be very helpful in getting trees out. Like the Parks Department, we do the tree sale, but we don't have funds to provide trees to private property.
So to go from that step then of having a tree fund that has been funded by whoever is developing and they're taking their trees down. And so they are going to potentially residential areas of this. Is there any way that that could be tilting toward lower income areas where you could actually make it a benefit to those people? I'm not saying over high income areas, but definitely make it attractive so that there's an engagement of wanting to put trees in those areas.
100%. I know for like me personally, outside of this, I mean, I know where the bad spots are. And I know where I can do work that has a larger impact. And that's where I do focus.
Right.
So we would use that same mentality. If that's what people decide to do with the money, which I think is a very good idea.
Do you need anything from us formally, officially, or?
Just lots of comments and thumbs up and thumbs down.
I see you typing away over here. Are you?
I'm taking all the
You
comments.
got all the comments down.
Yeah, that's what we talked to the tree board about.
Okay.
And they started to, it was only last week, so to give them a little chance to kind of absorbing all of it. It's the first time they'd really seen it. The more comments, the better. The more ideas you have. And it's okay to not like any of it. And that's the idea. We want this to work. So if you don't think something is right, then we need to point it out before it gets too far down the line. You're, this part is awful. Like now is a great time to say this part is awful, or we should add this or get rid of this.
Do we have a copy of this, or can we get a copy of this?
So I sent this in the one email when I sent out all the information for this meeting. It's the same one as the parks one, right? It's the same one that was in the parks.
It's the same one as Parks. So I haven't added any of Parks' comment, the tree board's comments yet. What I wanted to do, and I think the idea is that having the tree board be, that's kind of their role in this. They are the tree board. They need to be the ones that say, this works for us. But having this group's input has been very valuable and will continue to be very valuable. And sort of like co-sign off on this before we go to the next step.
What's your timeline, Evan?
I don't have one.
So
Mel,
if we could see the tree board's red line edits and give a general thumbs up, either to Mel or at our June meeting, that would be okay.
Mel, have you gotten the timeline?
No. Because they would need to do a commission vote on anything of approving, disapproving certain recommendation. It can't just come ad hoc.
Yeah.
So yeah, this could be something on the June item to have a further discussion and or vote or.
Yeah, I think the process should be compiling these comments. I'll put them back together in another draft. That draft will go back to this group, back to the tree board. And then at that point, y'all can decide whether this is good or we still need to work on it.
Well, we already did give a written recommendation to city council months ago.
So this is like the outcome of that.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So we're just like, we're on step 2.
Okay. Well, feel free to guide us through Mel if you need something more formal or articulated in any special way, say so.
Mel, if you're fine with it, just informal comments, if you want to compile them and shoot them over to me whenever you receive them.
Yeah, certain recommendations, so like, I know we're hearing some stuff about like ADUs being part of it and everything. Recommendations like that would need to have a vote of the commission because that's saying the Sustainability Commission thinks this.
Yeah.
So it can kind of be ad hoc, but to make it official, it does have to go a vote for some of these specific things.
Yeah. And like I said, a lot of this, there's a lot of work that needs to be, we're in the infancy of something like this actually.
And the tree board's there to deal with the intricacies, correct? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that once this is done and then there's council support for more, then that's when we would bring in other departments of the city to really hash this out. What is, not, it's not a draft. What is the ordinance now?
okay. Any other thoughts or questions? Good conversation. Thank you so much. Quite an education.
Thank you, Evan.
Thanks,
You're making
Evan.
progress. Keep it up.
We're getting there. Yeah, and like I said, anything, any ideas, any thoughts, positive or negative, are both equally helpful in forming this. Like, you don't have to feel like this is some sort of baby of mine. These are people's thoughts that I'm putting on paper and using technical stuff to form it into a shape. So
Great.
it can be and will be anything that these two groups want it to be.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Evan.
You can come visit anytime. Okay, let's move move on to Compost Colorado. Noah, you still with us out there?
I know, a champ.
Yes, I sure am. Yes, thank you guys. Thank you for inviting me and including me. I want to be conscious of time here. I know that on my calendar, this meeting ends in a couple minutes and you guys have other agenda items. So I want to just float. I'm happy to run through this presentation very quickly. I was hoping for some time for some discussion. So in the event that it would make more sense for me to maybe come back next month because you guys have a lot of really important things to discuss, I'm happy to do that. Or I can move through this very quickly and make sure that we're making good use of our time.
We usually go way over the 6:30 to 7:30,
Oh,
so
you do?
feel intimidated by that.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, well then I will, we'll just go for it then. Well, I would just want to, yeah. Great. So I just want to thank Mel and thank the city of Inglewood for not only inviting me to this meeting, but for being wonderful partners in waste diversion. We have really, really fantastic membership in your area. You've got a really committed, really conscientious group of people living in your municipality. And we've just loved all of our interactions with those folks, and I'm really excited about where we're at in Inglewood, and wanting to share with you guys a little bit about what we offer your residents and to brainstorm other ways that we might be able to support the city of Inglewood with their waste diversion efforts. Is it all right if I share my screen, Mel? Is that going to work out okay?
Absolutely. Let me know if it's not letting you. You should have access to do that.
Great. I'm going to jump in here. Right. Great. Okay. Awesome. So again, very excited about getting to talk about composting. And it was really cool to hear you guys talk through some of the big projects that you got going on. And it's just very inspiring to hear people involved in this type of civic activity that are, kind of leading with sustainability and leading with building more resilient local ecosystems. I just think that's so inspiring. So thank you guys for doing that. I love to start this just by talking a little bit about how I came to be involved with composting and with Compost Colorado. So I started as a high school teacher in my 20s, and I taught a speech and debate class, and I was going to share just a little photo to give you a window into my early 20s. This was me in my first year of teaching, running a speech and debate program at
No, we can't see you.
Oh, you can't see the
Your screen.
I desperately want
That's
to.
me,
so
that's me, that's
please
me.
share your screen.
Okay.
Okay, there you go.
Can you see now? Yeah, just to put you in the room with me as a high school teacher teaching a speech and debate class, which basically means that you spend a lot of time talking about social issues with kids. This was actually a drama unit, so we were playing around with, I believe this was the Odyssey we were playing around with way back when. So this was about a decade ago now. But one of the things that I always remembered from that experience was getting to talk with young people about what kinds of issues and problems that are facing the world that they care about, right? What kinds of things do they want to be a part of solving when they get a little bit older? And you can imagine all the things that get discussed. And I'm sure, especially the people in this room, can imagine that sustainability, climate change, the environment comes up a lot. And those conversations were really interesting to me for a lot of reasons, because it posed some interesting challenges. The challenge was, how do you make and empower young people to feel like they have some agency, some control, some ability to impact the future of the environment as we see it? And that was really challenging because it's a very complicated issue, and young people are really interested in trying to see things that happen now, and they want to be a part of solutions that are happening now. And it wasn't so much the realities of climate change that were so nerve-wracking for our young folks. It was actually the reality that it didn't seem like anybody was doing anything about it. So that was the big cause for concern. And that's when kids would begin to maybe cry, right? Like that was very overwhelming for young people. And so it was my job as their teacher to figure out some things that they could do to feel empowered. And it didn't take long before we came across composting. And the people in this room are going to know why composting is such an important thing. I'm going to do a very brief recap just so we can get a sense of where we are at. So composting gets discussed very, very quickly in conversations about sustainability, as it is the easiest and most impactful thing that a household, a business, a community can do to combat climate change. There are few things that are as easy and few things as impactful as figuring out how to get organics out of landfills. And here's why. We waste 40% of the food that we create in this country. That means that our landfills are comprised of about 50% at least of waste that is organic, waste that can break down properly, waste that should be degrading into soil. Now, there's a lot of reasons why that's really problematic, but the big kind of glaring reason at this point in time is the environmental justice piece. So the idea that not everybody is familiar with is that when you put organics into a landfill, it breaks down anaerobically, and that means that it doesn't have oxygen, and it means that it will emit methane gas into the atmosphere. And methane gas is 64 times as heat trapping as carbon dioxide, which means that when you throw food in the trash bin, you're contributing to an issue that actually has a larger impact on our environment than the airline industry. And that was recently reported by the Washington Post. So when we think about climate change mitigation, when we think about things that we can do that will combat or slow down the changing of our climate, getting food out of landfills is, I think, stop number one. So that's kind of where we begin. And there are a lot of other wonderful benefits to the planet when we get our friends, our family, our communities activated in the composting space. So we just talked about this one, lowering emissions from landfills. And that means you're preventing organic material from breaking down anaerobically or without that oxygen. And you avoid this massive and avoidable greenhouse gas emission. Now, we probably already know, we just had a wonderful presentation on the importance of trees and tree canopies and healthy air and those kinds of things. Composting is a part of that solution, right? It's an essential component of keeping carbon where it belongs, where it is most useful to us, where it can be broken down into its basic nutrients and used to grow all the wonderful things that we love and that we depend on. On top of that, it is the carbon capture technology that we are all waiting for Elon Musk to come up with. It is actually gifted to us by Mother Nature. When we allow things to break down with oxygen, the way they're supposed to, organics traps carbon in the soil. It's called carbon sequestration, and I'm sure many people in this on this commission are familiar with it, but it will continue to process carbon. It will continue to prevent that methane seep, and it allows that carbon to be utilized by growing life and by things that help contribute to healthier environments overall. Spreading soil leads to healthier ecosystems. When we're talking about the trees, when we spread nutrient-rich soil, it adds to the local environment, helps those landscapes become more drought resilient. It helps us repair degraded and polluted ecosystems, and it keeps those trees and plants healthier. When we talk about trees dying in our communities, a huge part of that is soil degradation. A huge part of that is the fact that degraded soil doesn't trap moisture, which means that we're less drought resilient. And that causes major problems for our green biosphere, right? We want to keep all that stuff really rich and really healthy. So we want to spread nutrient-dense soil and compost as many places as we can. And finally, when we're thinking about building resilience, the future that I imagine, that I hope my family and the next generation of my family are able to appreciate is, you know, we have to figure out how to reduce the overall temperature of our urban areas. I'm born and raised here in this city, or in Denver rather, and it is obviously hotter today than it was when I was growing up, and we need to fight that heat trapping effect. And as the climate warms, the urban cores that are filled with cement and concrete and steel, they radiate heat, and it keeps the temperature 10 to 15 degrees hotter in those areas than elsewhere. So fighting heat trapping effect is about creating healthy tree canopies, planting trees and grasses and plants, it will make a huge impact on the overall temperature of the areas in which we live. So fighting heat trapping effects. So you can see how if you show this to people, it is a really powerful opportunity and something that everybody can get started with right now. And just to give you a little bit more about what COCO does and what it's trying to do in the sustainability space is to make sustainable living made easy. So the cornerstone of that is obviously a composting service. That means we offer workshops, presentations. We do pickups for both curbside and drop-off locations for residential customers and membership, and also play a lot in the commercial space, helping restaurants, organizations, and businesses divert their organics as well, and also contribute to their LEED certifications and B Corp support, all these designations that help our companies kind of signal to people that they're doing right by the environment. There is no stronger argument for that than a composting commitment. So that's really great. That means we also give feedback on tonnage and contamination. This is something we're really proud of, that we're able to actually help people compost. The big thing is education. Not everybody knows what's compostable or that they should compost. We have a bench of really great facilitators who help make this exciting and energizing to anybody who happens to sit in front of us. We do holiday waste collections that allows larger communities to divert their Christmas trees and pumpkins and plants and garden material. All of that doesn't need to go into those big, nasty trash bags at the end of the planting season or in the fall. We host these great collection events that will allow residents and businesses to get that stuff out of landfills and produced into soil. We also offer membership a spring soil dividend. That means that we are going to give back. It's not just about us taking organics and turning it into compost. It's about all of the people who participate in this circular membership have a chance to spread that soil and help create healthier ecosystems. So it's a collaboration. There's a lot of synergy in the impact that we're having. We help with something, and you also then help by improving the environment directly around you. We also offer a refill store, so that allows people to source sustainable products, support local and small businesses, introducing sustainable products to folks. So that means when we pick up your compost, we'll also be able to drop off for you guys, for anybody who's a part of our program, refillables, soaps and detergents. So you don't have to go to the grocery store and buy, 2 pounds of plastic that you're going to throw away every time you want to get a laundry detergent container. We're here to help with that. So those refillables are really exciting. And we also source all of our products locally. And they're all geared towards helping people live sustainably. We take your compost, we drop off those reusables and refillables, we make soil, and then we come back around and give that soil back to you. Creating closed waste loops is essential to the future of our communities. And COCO is very excited about the model we've created and really excited about the value that we offer everybody who chooses to participate in our programming. And we've got a lot of really excited members in your area. We've got 2 COCO ambassadors who've set up drop-off locations in your area. We service about 200 of your residents through drop-off and curbside, and we've just signed up to be servicing your municipal buildings with office composting programs and education. So with all of that in mind, I just wanted to take the opportunity to share with the commission here all the great stuff that's already happening in your district, in your municipality, and to ask if there are any thoughts or ideas on ways that we might support further waste diversion and exploring further opportunities to engage your residents in this really essential practice and build community while we do it. So the idea now would be, I'd be happy to take questions and would also love to discuss if anybody has any ideas of audiences that might be interested in hearing more about composting, drop-off locations that might make sense, that might be owned or managed by the city of Inglewood. And if there are any other thoughts given the presentation, I'd love to answer any questions. Just here to kind of explain, one of the things that's available to you and your residents.
I have a question, Noah.
Yes, sir.
Have you ever considered, or is it worth considering, working more directly with neighborhoods. Englewood has an evolving neighborhood identity structure, which is good. And I live in the Cushing Park neighborhood area as an example. We have a park. We have a crazy piece of blacktop that we painted and are trying to make it more attractive. But I just wonder, instead of going house to house, door to door, would there be a way for the neighborhood to say, we have a neighborhood drop off? And would that make sense, or is that worth pondering?
I really appreciate that. And absolutely, that totally is something that makes a ton of sense and is one of the things that we do. So we already have HOA partnerships. We do partner with smaller districts and neighborhoods. Our community drop-offs generally work with some neighborhood organizations. So absolutely, I think, I love that idea. It would be wonderful to be able to be introduced to certain folks who might be interested in a short presentation on whether or not this might work out for those particular neighborhoods. I think that makes a ton of sense.
Well, we have a neighborhood leadership group that I was thinking this would be a great, you coming to that meeting. So I know I invited you to come to this one, but you should also go to that one.
We have
Then you could have.
We have a contact for that.
Yeah, use it with the neighborhood. Sorry, go ahead. I cut you off. I got excited.
No, because I was reading your mind because we have lots of different neighborhoods. And I will say, like having my drop off, I've gotten a lot of good feedback from just the simplicity of being able to, it's convenient, for people to come. And the membership of the drop off is a lot more affordable for people than the pickup service, like the curbside. So I think having the neighborhood drop off is a really great way to expand what Coco is trying to do.
I have two things. I have a question and a comment. So the question I have is, how do people drop it off? And this sounds really odd, but like, is it bags? They're putting it in bags? And then is it a specific type of bag?
Compostable bag.
Okay.
And so like, it's just like a trash can,
Yeah.
that you put out on the curb. So I just put it out on the curb every Monday. But the neighbors come and just drop their bags in there.
Does Coco, is that what you go by, Coco?
Coco.
Yeah, affectionately known as Coco.
I like it quite a bit. So do you supply those bags or?
Yeah, so I just want to clarify, you do not need to use a bag to dispose of compost in our bins. You can use any container you want. We have 5-gallon bins, 3.5-gallon bins. They're buckets that are kind of nice. They have a snap-on lid and a metal handle, and they've got some nice graphics on them. That is what we offer our curbside members. And if I have any opportunity to meet a drop-off member, I will give them one of those bins to utilize. We currently don't deliver those bins to our drop-off members, so it's just about getting getting the bin to the individual. If they're interested, we can totally work that out. But it is an unnecessary step in the event that the person has, a container that they want to collect their compost in. Maybe they don't like the bigger bin. They want something that's a little bit cuter or maybe a little bit more elegant. That's something that we come across. So you can use any bin you want. You would just take that bin to the drop-off location and dispose of your organics to the bin once a week.
One of the questions I had about that, is that recently some of the schools in the area just partnered with actually Ridwell to collect. They were very specific in collecting plastic bags, which is great. But it's all of a sudden kind of on these kids' radars, right? Like, oh, I see where we're headed with this.
Yeah.
The schools, to me, would be such an ideal place, especially just the lunchroom for collecting that compost, because it's something that those kids learn. My lunch, your lunch, their lunch, everyone's lunch, and all of a sudden, you're making a huge dent, right?
Totally. Yeah, really appreciate that. And we'd love to be, if there's a contact, somebody interested in sustainability at the school district, it would be wonderful to chat with them. We have a great partnership with Douglas County Schools, which I don't think you guys have Douglas County Schools inside Inglewood. It's more Littleton. But we have a great programs at elementary schools in Douglas County. We partner with 4 or 5 of them. And with a little bit of leadership inside the building, it's a great educational opportunity for our young kids. And just like, we're planting trees for 15, 20 years in the future, we have a really significant impact on our planet when we plant these seeds early. So love the idea and would love to be connected or to participate in a meeting with the schools in your area.
Do you
No, I
need to,
can-
go ahead. I'll
I
stop.
can connect that with, I can connect you with the schools, and I can also connect you with Madeline, who is our neighborhood resource coordinator.
Oh, wonderful. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's awesome.
No, I can, if you want, I can reach out to the one of the teachers at Charles Hay that kind of runs a lot of this stuff there too, just to see if more hands in the pot are helpful or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I really, all this stuff, warms my heart to hear. So thank you guys for offering these. Yes.
Now, how do you deal with yard waste? Do you handle yard waste like grass clippings and I mean, this is the time of year everybody's trimming their trees and pruning things back. I felt horrible. I threw a bunch of that in my trash because it was the easiest way to get rid of it. How does that handle on your end?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we do 2 annual yard waste collection events. So those we host them all over the metro area. Just to give you a sense of our scope, we've got about 2,000 members, and we operate all the way from Broomfield down to DTC Parker on the kind of north-south axis, and then basically from Colorado Boulevard all the way to Golden. So we cover a great area, and we host these drop-offs twice a year at 4 locations around, and you can come and drop off your yard waste at those events. Or if you are a member with us who has a curbside membership, you can dispose of that in 5-bag increments each week. Each week you can have us pick up anywhere between 1 and 5 yard waste bags. And if you want to scaffold those over the course of a month, if you have more than that, that's awesome. And there's just a small fee for their disposal. But other than that, we're there to pick up your yard waste, and we can do that curbside or at our drop-off events, which is how the rest of our customers are serviced.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah. Well, that was wonderful. I know that there's other stuff, and I'm conscious of the time, and I want you guys to see some of the Nuggets game. That's it.
Well, Noah, how can we help you? I mean, we do have some communication capabilities. Do you have competitors that we need to be sensitive that we can't promote you and not promote somebody else? But I think at a minimum, we could challenge ourselves to spread the word or just to remind people or steer them towards an event that you might be holding. I mean, does the group agree with me, or is that something in our bailiwick?
I didn't bring them this time.
Yeah. Whatever you guys are comfortable with, obviously just talking about composting with your constituents and the folks that you represent is so important. And at the end of the day, all we want, we're all mission driven folks. I'm in this business so that we can help divert organic. So just, giving me the opportunity to share this with y'all, to encourage, to just, sing this particular gospel and encourage you guys to spread the word is a huge value for me. I would love to be able to talk to the schools, love to be able to meet with the neighborhood leadership, just to give them a little bit more information in case the folks inside those neighborhoods are interested in composting. But that would be wonderful. And other than that, just appreciate the opportunity to connect, and would look forward to the chance to meet you all another time.
Noah, sorry, really quick, did you want to give them just like a very brief overview of the neighborhood ambassador program that Tracy's doing? Because I do feel like that's a program you all do that has a high impact. I don't know if that's like a widespread program or just a pilot.
Oh, it is. We are piloting it, but we, at this point, have piloted it for, Tracy, when'd you come on? Must have been
January?
January, right? Yeah. So it is absolutely something we're interested in exploring more opportunities. So if you think about organics in neighborhoods, what you're really looking for is people need it to be convenient. And they don't need a big 64-gallon tote. Generally speaking, we don't produce that much organic waste. And it doesn't make sense to have dump trucks driving house to house to house to house, diverting organics without being able to monitor for contamination or any of that stuff. So our solution to that is by producing these ambassador programs where drop-offs are going to be placed strategically in locations around service areas, and folks can then walk down the block and dispose of their organics there, much like we used to have kind of in like the 90s. It felt like we weren't all using the same tote. We were kind of bringing our trash to kind of central areas. And this is that idea, except composting. So Tracy, who is a sustainability champion and a rock star in organics diversion, and one of our favorite people and our really fantastic member here, and she has said, I've got a tote. I'm going to put it in, I'm going to house it in my garage or out behind my driveway. And then I'm going to offer it to my neighborhood to utilize, to dump their organics into. And then once a week, we get to inspect the bin. We give feedback on contamination when it comes. And we're able to keep our waste streams really clean and offer a convenient waste diversion opportunity that is low impact. We're not driving dump trucks around your cities and neighborhoods, and we're able to offer this opportunity to your residents. So the idea would be that the ambassador helps grow interest in the drop-off, that they're able to explore doing outreach and talking about composting to their neighbors and just offering the opportunity to them to utilize that bin as a diversion effort. Tracy, anything to add?
Well, how many, are you taking more ambassadors?
We take applications are rolling. So we do take more ambassadors, and we assess them kind of on a applicant by applicant basis.
I would say that would be one thing, is to try to, increase the number of ambassadors just so it's convenient for more neighborhoods, like you were asking, Michael. So.
Sorry,
And
Tracy. Go ahead, Noah.
Oh, I was just thinking as we try and synergize some of this, the neighborhood leadership group might be a good place to start.
Yeah.
To float the ambassador program, to see if anybody in that group might be interested, and to see, hosting a tote in the neighborhood is kind of a kind of natural first step.
Yeah, and it's been a great way to just connect with my community as well, and also just the outreach of just educating people about composting and how simple it can be. So it is I think Coco did a great job of thinking about this and promoting it within neighborhoods, because obviously people that live within the neighborhood are going to have a greater impact of getting people on board. So.
And it's a good way to start to gauge your community's interest, right? Like you might be exploring, the municipality, the city of Inglewood might be exploring kind of a wider organics diversion. This is a way to gauge interest and buy-in in those programs potentially. So that data could be useful and would be an easy partnership if there was interest in that.
Noah, did you see Tiana's question in the?
Yeah, this is great.
So she said, sorry, for the people in the room, she said, what kind of contaminants do you typically see? And is there an easy way to spread this information, especially to businesses, point people towards the COCO website?
Yeah, so I just shared what our COCO website is in the chat there. It's compost-colorado.com. And I would love, I think I have the commission's email. I'll send a follow-up with some kind of easy one-pagers if folks are interested in spreading the word. That's really the best way to do it. We've got a really easy digest residential flyer, which tells people a little bit more about what the opportunities are. And then in terms of the commercial partners, we really do love our businesses, and you know, the big bulk of the weight of our organics is really tied up in restaurants, even in retail, and then in these bigger areas where more people gather. So commercial spaces are really important, and we have a really exciting opportunity around our commercial partnerships. So would love to talk more about that with anybody who's interested, and you can shoot me an email. I'll follow up. Am I right about that, Mel? Is all these folks on that email I could just kind of reply to?
Yeah, but you know what, I know it's a pain, but email it to me and then I email it out to them, just because there can't be more than 2 members on an email.
Got it. Easy.
Legally, it's weird.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll keep that. Yeah, that'll make things nice and easy. And then as for your first question, contaminants, that's an interesting question. I wonder if, Tracy, you got any thoughts on contaminants?
Fruit stickers, bananas. Just educating people to really look at their food before they dump it into the.
Yeah, totally.
It's a contaminant.
Definitely our most common is food bindings or stickers. So those are going to be big, like rubber bands or sometimes twist ties, or that kind of goofy wax material, which wax isn't horrible, but you don't know what it's mixed with. That kind of line bananas that keep them in bundles. Those kinds of things are really common. There's a lot of confusion around paper products, whether paper products are compostable, what paper products are compostable. We have some issues with that. And then there's just kind of the thoughtlessness. If I've got a bunch of stickers on a box that is compostable because you can't compost cardboard, you got to take the stickers off. So it's mostly just an attention thing, an awareness. And it's one of the reasons why we're really proud to offer the trainings that we do. We find that they greatly reduce the likelihood of contamination, and we offer in-time contamination feedback. If bins are contaminated, whether those are curbside bins or commercial bins, we take images of those, and those get shared with our the point of contact for that bin. And then we have follow-ups which allow us to address contamination and allow our membership to produce a very clean waste stream that isn't just composting to make us all feel good, but it actually goes to a landfill. When you compost with cocoa, you're really able to be confident that your stuff is going to end up making it into the dirt. Yeah, well, I don't want to take up any more time. You guys have more to talk about, but I really do appreciate the opportunity to chat, and I will follow up with an email to Mel. And I'll also mention a couple of the things that we discussed. And please feel free. I'll have Mel share my contact information. If you have any additional questions or ideas about waste diversion or just want to geek out on composting, please feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you very much. Very good.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate you. Keep up the good work.
Okay.
All right.
Are y'all gonna whip through this? I know it's late. We all wanna go. City updates, hopefully you all saw at the last, at the April 15th city council meetings, there are some changes with the sustainability plan, which I think they're all awesome. Community resilience has changed to climate action, very more specific, which I think it needed. Economic resilience changed to sustainable business and green workforce, again, more specific. Air quality to air quality education. And the built environment, it's just how we define it. That changed, again, including both human and environmental health. Any questions there before I move on from that one? There are also other like smaller updates within the plan. If you want to see that, that's within the memo for city council, but they're much smaller. An update on the greenhouse gas target. So this was something that did get pulled by city council. They totally fine. They just wanted more information on it, just like the Sustainability Commission took 2 meetings. It's completely understandable. So more information has been sent to them, and I'll update folks as I learn what their feedback is on that one. This next one is already taken care of, actually, that code change update that everyone voted on for the weed ordinance. We needed a representative for it. Cara said she's gonna be that representative. We're aiming for that to go to June 10th for when it goes in front of council. And then for the volume 3 newsletter, I'll pull it up now and see if there were any comments, any questions, any concerns that folks have with the newsletter. So here just talks about the updates I just went over. It links to the city council stuff so people can really be informed and look through it. Because we have those new goals, we're re-upping our community survey, which no one has even really touched in so long. Residents, I think, forgot about it. But so we're pushing that back out again. And just like the last one, any kind of recommendations or feedback that we get, which is completely anonymous, I'll bring to the Sustainability Commission so you all can see what other residents are saying.
Was that link live on that, on the email, do you know? Or
It
is
should be live, was it not?
Well, I got to it and it required me to log in and I wasn't sure if that was a
So you do
prerequisite
have to have
an account.
an Englewood Engaged account.
Okay, I
Yeah.
thought I did, but okay.
So yeah, that's for the survey. This is the really exciting news that the Sustainable Business Partnership is officially launching in June. That's when our part-time coordinator is starting, is June 3rd.
That's really exciting.
Yeah, we're very, very excited. So this is just giving information if businesses want to sign up. And then another big update that we have is that the sustainability grant, the $1,000 one, originally closed on May 10th. We had really low turnout for it. We were gonna really push it at the Earth Day event, which obviously got canceled. So we're actually making it a rolling one that'll be open until October 31st. So if you know neighbors that have a good sustainability project that impacts the community, it can't just be on private property impacting themselves. Tell them about this grant, they can get up to $1,000. So that's what this is about. And then the final one is that the city is launching composting, internal composting through Compost Colorado. It'll be in all of our break rooms, which was something in our sustainability plan. And then this is just the resource library that was there in the last few newsletters.
Where do we access this?
So haven't sent it out yet. It's gonna be out tomorrow if everyone's fine with it. And then I did send it in the email to everyone. I put in kind of highlights like scroll down and all the links should be live and everything. Yeah. So any questions or qualms or changes folks want to see made? Good, good. I love at the end of the night, people are just like, yes. Yeah, good, it's done. Okay, the last thing, because I already touched on the Green Business Coordinator starting, is just anything you all want to talk about at the June meeting.
Has the coordinator been hired?
Sorry, what?
Has the person been hired?
Yep, so we hired the person. He's phenomenal. He has his background and his master's in corporate sustainability. I have never met someone more passionate about corporate sustainability in my life. It was a panel of 5 people and he was the unanimous pick. We were like, it's clearly Aiden. So we're gonna let him get settled first and then he's gonna come to the commission to meet you all. But you all are gonna love him. He's from London, I think.
Oh, he's got an
Does he have an accent?
He has an accent. I know, it's great. But he is absolutely divine. You all love him, and yeah, he's just super passionate about this topic.
What's the other part-time thing? He got hired part-time, right?
Yep. So he's 20 hours. He's split between Sheridan and Englewood, 2 days a week for Englewood, half a day for Sheridan, just because they're so much smaller.
What do you know what he does with the rest of his time?
Hoping to be full-time for this position, so I know that's part of it. But then I think he has his own side thing going on, and I, for the life of me, can't remember what it is.
I was just curious.
He has an entrepreneurial spirit.
That's his spirit animal.
But any ideas for June that you all wanna?
We have to run past our proposed magazine. But do we have to get approval?
You all can. It seemed like general consensus that the commission was fine if you all wanted to just make them.
Sure.
But if you all have time and want to bring it, it's totally up to you all, what you all.
Either way, we'll just get a confirmation of what we decided on, yeah.
Was there discussion about doing something follow-up on the tree ordinance?
We get an
Is that just
update
a
or
discussion
Yeah.
point?
Absolutely.
Great.
So we'll have our, Logan and Tracy will have the communication stuff pretty well under control by next month. Give us a 5-minute update on
100%.
100%.
Yes.
It's okay to have a short meeting too.
Not for this group. Important stuff.
Okay, is there any other comments, discussions, anything else that you want to go through? No public forum input? If there's no further business, I move we adjourn. All those in favor, say aye. Let's get out of here. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
all.
you.
Thanks, Tiana. Thanks, Mayor Sierra.
Feel better, Mel.
Hey, Mel, can I ask you?
Yeah.
This is about the sustainability